What's going on, everyone? My name is Nicholas Merton here at DataDash, and today is May 29th of 2019. Well, folks, I hope you all are having a fantastic day wherever you are, and in today's video, we're really going to be focusing in on a key piece of news, and that is how the G20 is looking to regulate cryptocurrencies. So basically, old people trying to understand new technology. Never usually works good. Anyways, we've got a lot to dive into, guys. Let's not push off any longer right after our quick sponsor. Our sponsor for this episode is Abra. Abra is a crypto wallet that allows all non-US persons to actively trade and invest in stocks. This means that everyone in 150 countries across the world can now use Bitcoin to easily invest in popular stocks like Tesla, Apple, Amazon, and more, all with $0 in fees and as little as $5. If you're not a US resident, try it out now using the link down below in the description and get started today with Abra. Alright everyone, so seeing as price action has been relatively stagnant over the last 24 to 48 hours since Bitcoin has hit all new relative highs for the year of 2019, I want to spend some time really focusing on these talks with G20. Now, I know when it comes to regulation on the topic of cryptocurrencies, a lot of people jump the gun and say, oh, regulation doesn't matter, regulation doesn't matter. Well, it does have some weight on the world, guys, and it is going to determine how the businesses, which, to be fair, let's be honest, a lot of us use, such as exchanges and wallet platforms and things of that sort that do have registered entities. As these regulations do come in, they will have some impact on that part of the industry, and it does play a big role into the inflows and outflows of crypto and how convenient crypto can be on a day-to-day basis. Now, that being realized, I stand in the boat that a lot of people have, that honestly, if you're just dealing with crypto specifically, doing crypto-to-crypto transactions or sending money to a friend or to a business, I believe that the government has no right to step in the way of your business. However, I do believe that there is not only room for decent regulation, but especially when it deals with companies that are registered in the US or registered in a specific country and dealing with the US dollar. Hate to say it, guys, the government does have some say in that, okay? It's their currency. It's dealing in their economy in this case. We have to have some decent respect to that, okay? So again, I hold a very neutral view to it. I just don't view things in a black and white nature, and I think it's very important to understand some of the major regulatory bodies' positions on what they're focusing on cryptocurrencies. And we actually find that it's not too much on censoring crypto. It's something that, however, we might disagree with as individuals in this space. So let's go ahead and start off with the obvious question. What is the G20? Well, the G20 is a coalition of around 20 nations across the world from various different geographical regions. You're talking people from North America, South America, Asia, Europe, pretty much the whole shebang. You're getting a lot of different places, and not just people who work in the regulatory agencies of these economies. You also have people from the G20 and that are basically working in the central banks and basically financial regulators, things of that sort. So you're getting a whole coalition of people. You're not just getting, again, the federal regulators, but you're also getting people who are heading up as chairmen and leads at the central banks across the world from very different geographical regions and with varying different views on monetary policy, right? So the thing I want to press here before we dive into it, guys, is I know when people see things like the G20 and they see these at a big coalitions, they think that it's as simple as, oh, they're a big cabal, they all share the same interests, things of that sort. And we're going to learn as we take a look through Kevin Helm's article here, a really great article from Bitcoin.com, that it's not that simple. And I want to press that before we dive into anything. Basically, the G20, just like any organization, is made up with a bundle of different countries. And I can tell you all that it isn't a single organization that has a overarching singular opinion. And I can explain a very good example of this. You have to look at things in a macro perspective. I'll give you an example of two different countries. I don't think China is part of the G20, my apologies. But you also have Russia as well. So we'll take two of these different countries. Russia, on one hand, is very pro-crypto. Why is that? Well, if you guys might have not known, it's fine if you don't. They didn't really talk about it that much. Moscow was the largest hub out of any city in the world, more than San Francisco, more than Shanghai, or any kind of the major hubs in the world, or Shenzhen, or any kind of place in the world, even South Korea and Seoul. It was the largest hub for ICOs out of any city in the world. Brought a lot of money into Russia through cryptocurrency funding and ICOs. So to Russia, crypto is a very positive thing, especially when their energy exports are dropping like a rock because prices are dwindling like crazy due to a glut in natural gas and oil in this case. That's their major export. They need to find another way to bring in money to the economy. So Putin and the rest of Russia really do like cryptocurrencies. And we'll see that throughout the article. Whereas China, on the other hand, hates cryptocurrencies with a vehement passion in this case. Now, why do they hate it? Because, to be completely transparent and fair with you guys, miners in China have used mining, Bitcoin, to basically export wealth out of the country. Right? This is why China has been in this kind of catch-22. They don't want to destroy entire local economies, as Andreas Antonopoulos has talked about, that depend on Bitcoin mining, but a lot of that money is just moving out of the economy, right? So this is, again, you don't have one singular scenario that a country, all these countries are going to believe in that is proper in regards to dealing or regulating or having some kind of oversight over cryptocurrencies, right? So I just want to make that point clear, guys. Just giving you a little bit of tad bit of my viewpoint, and I'd love to know what you all think down in the comments down below. But there is something that these countries share in general, and we're going to see that through the Financial Action Task Force, which is basically one of the global governing bodies that the G20 is using in order to establish some form of overarching cryptocurrency regulation or oversight. It has less to do really with so much regulation. It has more to do with oversight and being able to track what's going on in the cryptocurrency space. So the FATF, interestingly enough, I'm actually kind of positive about this. I'm quite excited that they actually chose the FATF to not just be government agencies and regulators. It's actually made up of over 300 representatives from 36 different countries in the private sector. And I hope more than anything, this is a good picture of it right here. You can see people coming together and discussing topics in relation to cryptocurrency regulation. The one thing I do hope is that this is real individuals kind of in the thick of the cryptocurrency space, people running regulated exchanges, running some of the wallets, some of the interesting technologies, and not just kind of the IBM, Deloitte kind of blockchain guys, because I don't think they'll really understand this space. I want someone from the compliance department of Deloitte who's focusing on how to use blockchain for supply chain logistics to be dealing with how crypto as money is going to be used, or crypto as a store of value, or as a payment solution, right? Where I really think a lot of the killer apps are. I think you need to get some of the more core people in the space to be dealing in that. But again, it's just my opinion. So if you read through this quote here, this kind of summarizes in a very bad way what they're focused on. The discussions focused on the mapping of virtual asset services and business models, and on the implementation of specific FATF recommendations. So basically, in summary, guys, the major focus of the G20, the FATF, and all these kind of regulators in total has come to the conclusion that they need to focus on what they've tried to combat over the last few years as the FATF, and that is money laundering and financing of terrorism. Okay, so the two acronyms you're going to see very commonly in this case is AML, anti-money laundering, which the traditional financial sector has to keep up with. However, just had one of the largest cases of money laundering through Danske Bank and Deutsche Bank, but not to mention as well trying to combat financial terrorism in this case, or financing of terrorism. God, I always mix these acronyms up. Okay, so we know that that's the overarching kind of assumption, but we get different kind of messages from different economies when we get towards the deeper crypto regulation. We'll come back to that topic of, analyzing kind of crypto markets. Now, as we talked about, Russia's very pro-crypto. In fact, they were set to supposedly put cryptocurrency regulation in the books back as far as July in 2018. And coming up on almost a year now, they're finally looking as if in this July they're going to have something passed. The problem is that they're having some conflictions with the standards set by the FATF at the moment. The quotes here don't summarize it very well, but that's basically what they're going after. It's that, hey, we want to pass something, but we're having some conflicted standards with the FATF, and we'll see as we go throughout this article that South Korea has some very similar issues. Now, Japan is basically on board with the FATF standards. In this case, they're still letting crypto regulation thrive. The FSA, the Financial Services Authority, I think, Financial Services Authority, got that acronym right. One of the major regulating bodies, similar to the SEC in Japan, has basically been, kind of in open arms saying we want to allow cryptocurrency exchanges to operate. Bitflyer still operating, things of that sort. But it's been enough to push exchanges that are a little more kind of liberal and kind of trying new things like Binance out of the country. So again, still letting cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, these peer-to-peer currencies exist, being traded, things of that sort. And they're just kind of, I think, on the fence about the ICO space, as well as, some of the exchanges and companies that are pushing the boundaries a little bit more. So that's why they're still in line with the standards set by the TAF in this case. All right, now, one thing that people are still very confused about is South Korea. Now, South Korea, with all its conflicting agencies, I think has come to the summary that they need the G20. They need this kind of overarching body. And I might be wrong on this, but what I get from the article and what I've gotten over the last few months from South Korea is an urgency to get regulation, a bunch of different federal organizations conflicting against one another in South Korea without really knowing who has the say on it. And the problem is, because they've had no chance to actually get official body of regulation set, they're still seeing ICOs popping up, right? There's still ICOs raising, still exchanges operating probably in ways that they shouldn't. And they've basically been trying to minimize these regulatory inconsistencies. There isn't a clear standard. And they're hoping that with this kind of overarching standard by the FATF, that they'll be able to have some kind of framework established in the sense of South Korea that they'll have to kind of establish on top of things, right? So that's where South Korea is. Now, the big thing that they report as a problem, and we can actually see quotes here from out of any company. I think this is probably the one we should listen to, Chain Analysis, that the standards set by FATF are quite overbearing in the sense of combating anti-money laundering and financing of terrorism. And that is that, in this case, there are clear technical obstacles that prevent cryptocurrency businesses from being able to comply with the standards set. So they cited that the cryptocurrencies were originally designed for peer-to-peer transactions without intermediaries and a central authority, but they said that they'd be unable to meet these standards because they're setting the standard that they need to tell if the beneficiary is using an exchange or a personal wallet. Problem with this is that, if I'm, for example, wiring money to a cryptocurrency exchange, right, they could ask me, hey, Nick, did you send this from Bittrex, or did you send it, from some Asia exchange, or did you send it from your personal wallet? For a million different clients can say different things, and it's hard to backtrack and see if they're actually telling the truth or not. And in this case, we have a hard time actually having a framework of transparency. Not to mention, they said requiring a transmission of information identifying the parties is just not technically feasible. So again, I think the FATF has a long way to go in building these standards. I'd really like them to talk to some of the leading individuals in this space who have actually gone about doing a good job of self-regulating, who have actually followed within the compliance range of traditional major economies, and have really set the standard and bar high, yet also have provided great crypto services to people who want to buy their first cryptocurrencies. And the EU at the moment, in summary, has basically still been on this idea that, cryptocurrencies are not a risk to, their monetary policy, the euro area, things of that sort. Let alone at the time when the EU, in this case, or not the EU, I guess the Eurozone, which is countries that are using the euro. The Eurozone has been experiencing negative interest rates with their currency. So basically paying you to gamble with money on businesses that are possibly losing money. Yeah, I don't think you should be worried about money laundering or anything of that sort with cryptocurrencies. I think you should be worried about cryptocurrencies taking over the euro and taking over other currencies over the coming decade or two. But that might just be me. I don't know. The euro is still one of the strongest currencies in the world. Maybe I'm just being cynical. So they continue through. You guys can read through some of the more in-depth stuff here. But as we can see, there's very different conflicting worries and concerns as we go through different countries and economies. Some that are much more open to a positive framework for development of cryptocurrencies and cryptocurrency services, and some that are a little bit more restrictive. In summary, do I believe the FATF will be able to have a standard by this year? Honestly, I honestly don't. I think that, this time right now, there's too many global concerns going on. As much as I'd like to see a solid framework come in, I think they're worried about, for example, things like the trade deal between China and the United States. And there's going to be a lot bigger geopolitical issues this year. The shadow banking issues in China and India that don't get a lot of talk. The management of monetary policy as we're going towards the peak and a peak of this bubble, and also the entry of a likely recession in the next few months to a year or two. So I think those are where the focus are going to be. And we'd be very, very lucky. I wouldn't say lucky in this case. It would be very rare to possibly see some form of crypto regulation this year. I really think it's going to be something in 2020 that comes to fruition. But I'd like to know what you all think about it. What do you all think in this sense? It seems like the G20 just wants to track and trace Bitcoin. This has kind of been what the IRS and most federal agencies in the United States have been on. Do you think that they have a place in tracking cryptocurrencies, or maybe to a certain degree when it has to do with exchanging to US dollars? I'd love to know what you all think about it. And if you want to leave a comment down below, feel free to. If you guys haven't already and you stuck around throughout the whole video, seems like you might have liked the video. So if you could, drop a like, subscribe, and consider hitting the bell icon, due to the fact that you won't always get notifications for the videos unless you do. So hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Thank you as always, for sticking around, and I will see you all in the next video. Stay tuned.